This man is Massimo Frescella, a former design director at Jaguar Land Rover who was responsible for several notable cars, including the new Range Rover, the Discovery, and the Defender. Famously, he was also design director when JLR dreamed up the wonderfully controversial Jaguar Type 00. But shortly after its unveiling, he spectacularly quit JLR to join Audi, where he's about to cause an even bigger stir.
Remember back in the day when Audi used to make really interesting cars? Stuff that would make you say, I want one of those. Stuff, for example, like the Audi TT. Well, guess what? Those days might be back with this.
This is the Audi Concept C, a car that channels the spirit of the original TT and gives us a glimpse of the future of Audi. It previews the company's all-new design language for the next generation of models to bear the four rings. And it's the brainchild of a man who evidently knows a thing or two about causing a stir. The front is bold, almost architectural. The familiar Audi single-frame grille is gone, potentially forever, replaced with what they're calling the vertical frame. In other words, a rectangular grille with a brushed aluminium Audi badge floating on top of a tinted polycarbonate panel.
Imagine the stone chips. My eyes are watering just from the thought of it. You've got to have some PPF up here. But actually, it's a very clever piece of design because what it does is it disguises these ugly radar sensors on the front and also contains these extra vertical elements which give it a little bit of depth. And by the way, these vertical elements can also be found on the edges just here in the form of these air intakes, and these are solid metal, very premium. Plus on the headlights, more vertical details with these four individual elements referencing the Audi badge. And very cleverly, these are in DRL mode right now, but when you engage the main beams, the lights move from behind and give you a slightly different light graphic. How cool is that? At the side, it has a classic two-seater sports coupe silhouette with this single line running all the way from front to back, giving it a very sharp look. We've also got a second line running from the top to the bottom, curving slightly as well, dividing the car into thirds, 2/3 at the front, 1/3 at the back, apparently according to the golden ratio. We've also got forged carbon side skirts to mirror the forged carbon front splitter and the forged carbon rear diffuser. More on that in just a second, but let's take a look at the wheels. 20 inches. And the cool thing about these is that they're designed to look like the OG TT wheels from the early 2000s. 6 spokes, but the closer you get, the more you see, because behind the spokes are these extra details and also these inserts designed to give it a bit more aero efficiency. Plus, a self-leveling Audi badge. Very interesting nod to the past.
What else was there? Oh yeah, it's a convertible, like the TT. But rather than having to choose between coupe and drop top, this does both. The roof opens elegantly with the rear section rising high and the roof portion splitting into two before tucking itself away under the rear deck.
I know this is the replacement for the TT, but I'm getting Audi R8 vibes, especially when I look at it from the back. There's something about it. It's low, it's wide, it's got that inherent muscularity, but still quite architectural in design. I'm not a design guy, but when I look at this, it just looks like a spaceship to me.
There's no glass window to be found here, partly to help reduce weight, but also partly to allow Audi to get clever with the design. So there are fins that house a rear camera, as well as a high-level brake light, all incorporated in the back. The aluminium Audi badge sits proud in the center, and again you get quad elements in the rear lights, although with no motorization. The diffuser, as I mentioned earlier, is formed of forged carbon with a subtle finish to avoid an overly showy appearance, with an F1 style fog light front and center. Now, let's take a look at the interior.
There aren't any individual features that stand out to make you go, wow. Instead, there are lots of details that you go chasing that all add up to what is a very intriguing concept. Okay, we'll start with the seats. First of all, they don't look like traditional car seats. These actually more resemble something you might find in an art gallery, for example. Very upright, very smooth, finished in wool completely. And because wool is naturally breathable, you don't end up with lots of individual perforations that you might find in leather, for example, in order to facilitate heating and cooling. Very nice. We've also got wool on the inside of the doors as well, which gives it a very simple finish. But we've also got this very technical looking anodized titanium finish for the handle and also the upper section of the doors, which is reflected in this dashboard as well. Look at the edges where the vents are, also titanium. Plus, let's talk about this. These are what they call the Quattro flaps. Steady on. This instrument binnacle is designed to look a bit like what you found on the original Quattro, hence these flaps at the side. Now, the purpose of these flaps is to house these lights, which serve a couple of functions. One thing they do is to provide some kind of ambient lighting, but also they can communicate with the driver. For example, they'll illuminate red and flash at you whenever you activate launch control. On the upper section of the instrument binnacle, you'll find these vertical sections which kind of reference the front grille and also the vents on either side. Very cool detail. Let's talk about the actual instrument display. Very clever the way they've done this. They've separated the speedo on the upper section here versus the extra driving information, including your power, your range, and other performance details on the lower section in a very clear, very easy to understand format. We've also got, shock of all shocks, a circular steering wheel. How very 90s, with physical controls, and these have a very satisfying click whenever you press them. That is a nice detail. Also, physical controls in the center column for your drive modes and also your volume selector. On the subject of the center console, it also has this translucent storage box which opens when you do that. There's some other storage in this car in this translucent section which you open by holding for 3 seconds. Look at that, you can stash your phone in there. Your phone's hidden away, but you can still see it kind of radiating light behind that panel. Yeah, very cool. And on the subject of motorized elements, have a look at this. You might have noticed the lack of a touchscreen in this car. Well, it does have one, except it's hidden away and flips out on demand. How cool is that?
Back to the exterior design. Audi's new design chief may have left Jaguar before the Type 00 ever made it to production, but at Audi he's steering things towards a future where bold architectural design philosophies seem to sit at the very core of the brand. And he's not alone. Bentley seem to be treading this path too, with their new EXP15 concept showing us a glimpse of what the brand will offer in the future. It might be a growing trend.
So that is the Audi Concept C, retro but modern. Lots of detail that showcases Audi's past while also giving us a glimpse of the company's future. And I know what you're thinking, it's just a concept, it will never see the light of day. But you're wrong. I have it on very good authority that this car will go to production in some form and sooner than you might think, possibly as early as 2027. Let's not forget, the original Audi TT concept, nobody thought that would be a reality, and yet it went on to become a very real product. And more than that, it went on to become an absolute icon. This thing is realer than you might think.